Hi, I'm Barb.
Hi, I'm Pat.
Pat and I have a lot of interesting conversations.
Yes, and we thought you might like to listen in to our podcast that we've called Coffee House Inspirations.
We hope you will enjoy our topics.
Hi, Barb.
Hello, Pat.
How are you today?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. The sun's shining.
It's
above,
beautiful out.
yeah, it's above zero. So how much better can it get?
I know.
So today we're going to have a conversation about journaling. And you and I are both journalers and have been for quite some time. And so I think we have a little bit of regular discussions about our journaling, and we've sort of developed a process over time, each one of us kind of differently. But it's become a fairly regular and important part of our lives. Is that correct?
True. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. So I thought I'd start with something just kind of a little bit different. So I was perusing, the World Wide Web. I found some quotes on journaling, and I thought they were kind of interesting. And so I was going to throw, maybe 3 or 4 of these out just for a discussion and see if they relate to kind of our evolution in journaling.
Okay.
And the first one, I'll just start with number 1, and then you can respond to it. It says journal writing, when it becomes a ritual for transformation, is not only life-changing, but can be life-expanding. What do you think of that?
Okay. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure if it's been life-changing for me to journal, but perhaps life-expanding. Like, when you're putting your thoughts down, a lot of times, you don't realize it, but you're actually working things out as you're writing.
Mm-hmm.
So life expanding, I would agree with. I don't know if it's been life changing though.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna read another one out here, and I'm going to respond to it. See if it strikes any chords.
Okay.
This one is, quote, "I write in a journal daily. The extraordinary ritual has revolutionized my mindset, transformed my heart set, and generally influenced my life exponentially." Okay, so about 2 years ago, I started doing a daily gratitude journal amongst other journaling activities. And I would have to say that that's one thing that has been transformational for me.
Wow.
Because to commit to a daily gratitude journal, it changes the way you start looking at things. Because if you have to, because I do 10 a day, which seems like a lot, but they aren't the biggest things. They could be something small, like a really tasty apple.
Yeah.
And you start looking at things differently, of what you're grateful for, what is something that you could actually write about. And from my own perspective, I found that I'm less inclined to be looking for things that are wrong, which is kind of a habit, and more looking for things that are right.
Yeah.
I would say there is some truth in that one.
Well, I would agree with that. I would agree with that one with a gratitude journal. I would agree that could be life changing. Like when I was referring to just general journaling, but I think gratitude journals are a fantastic idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would attest to that for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got another one here for you. Journaling helps you to remember how strong you truly are within yourself. Sometimes we forget how strong and amazing we are. Journaling can remind you.
I agree with that. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And again, it's as you're writing your thoughts down. I think it just brings more clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And more insights. I think that, having things going around in your head over and over and over again, if you can put it down on paper, it seems to kind of get sorted out a little bit better.
Mhm. Kind of you can have a different picture of what's actually going on in your mind.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's true, because when we're just having random thoughts, or maybe, focus thoughts on one particular issue or individual or something, that we don't always have an awareness of some of the subtext,
Hmm.
the commentary on the thoughts, and the commentary on, what our reactions are. And there's often a subtext in there that we don't realize that we have until we start writing it down.
Yes, yeah.
You go, oh my goodness, I didn't know I was thinking that way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, and
You
I
can
would,
realize how smart you really are.
or how fuzzy you are. One way or the
Or
other.
that, or that. Yep,
Which
yep.
is sometimes helpful in terms of, focusing, because, and we have a lot of repetitive thought patterns, and a lot of things that we think over, like in one day, just roll around in about 3 or 4 different general thought areas.
Hmm.
And we kind of, when we're writing that down, you kind of have a sense that you don't have a lot of focus beyond these very small kind of arranged thoughts.
Yeah.
And it's all, for me, it's always helpful, because I sometimes forget that the brain, in and of itself, is not very creative. It's when you can slow down some of those repetitive thoughts and just be with whatever is going on in a kind of, state of mindfulness or a state of presence. That's when new ideas can come to the surface.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay, I've got another one here for you.
Okay.
This is a quote by Maya Angelou. And she says, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you.
Oh,
Every person has an untold story, and journaling is a way to make telling that story a reality."
well, that's a good one.
Mhm.
That's a really good one.
Would you say that?
Um, well, yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that because, there's been times that, I've been feeling angry or upset or something like that. And once you start writing it down, like it's a release. It's a release. So do you think she's referring to like a life story or, you know, separate events? What do you
Well, I
think
think
she's,
maybe either one, because she just, she basically just says an untold story. So that could just be a story about, something that happened in a relationship, or
yeah.
something that happened possibly in a work situation, or family situation, where you haven't had an opportunity to even assess or examine what your upset or pain or reaction was.
Hmm.
And that there's a lot that we stuff down and stuff inside, because it doesn't seem appropriate to discuss it, or it doesn't seem safe maybe to discuss it. But you can
Yeah.
always write about it and have that conversation with yourself.
Yes, I was just thinking that when as you were talking, that it's like having a conversation. If you don't have anybody to talk to about it, it is like having a conversation with yourself. And as you're getting it down, um, it's being released. Like it's being released out of you, and so create space for clearer thinking, more creativity. Just
Those are really good points. I like that word you said, space, because sometimes our mind is so full of this clutter,
guck.
guck, and it's usually repetitive,
Yes.
that we don't really have space for new ideas, because we're so busy re-examining all the old stuff. There's a writer named Natalie Goldberg. She writes a lot about writing, because she's really into creative writing, and she wrote a book called called Writing Down the Bones. And I love that title because
Oh, I do too.
yeah, it's just kind of the, writing down the bones is sort of the basic structure of what we're kind of made of and whatnot. And she has a quote here, and then I'll leave this to you to react to. Write what disturbs you, what you fear, what you have not been willing to speak about, be willing to split it wide open.
Wow.
So I'll just repeat that, because she says, write what disturbs you, what you fear, what you have not been willing to speak about, be willing to split it wide open.
So I do write what I'm like, if I'm upset about something, I do write that. But I have to say that somewhere in the back of my mind as I'm journaling, like when she said, write down what you fear, there's always kind of a part of me that wonders who might read this at some point. And I think that probably makes me a little hesitant to write down maybe all of my fears, or just be totally, maybe not be quite totally honest with.
I'm smiling because I have a solution for that.
What's that?
Myself.
What's that?
It's called a paper shredder.
Okay.
Because there are times when you're just you're reacting like a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you're piddled off, and you're saying things in your head that you probably said when you were 5 or 7 or 10 years old or something like that. But it's brewing inside of you, and it won't let loose. And it's the kind of energy that can consume you. And it might be a really innocuous, not very to other people, not a very big deal, but it's burning a hole in your soul.
Yeah.
And so I had that same thing. You see, I used to think, well, what if I drop dead today?
Right.
And somebody opened my journal and they saw this, and they would just like, what the hell? And so I've learned to take a few pieces of paper and just barf it out. Excuse my expression. Just let it rip. Be as ridiculous and as childish and as immature and expressive as you can be, and just let it out, because it's like an energy. And then in meditation, we often talk about creating a space for those kind of feelings. Or, as Thich Nhat Hanh, he always says, just treat it like an angry child and hold it. If it's anger, or if it's those feelings that just don't seem to let go. And that, from that much more adult mindfulness present place, it's a brilliant idea. Sometimes, you're just 5 years old, and and so I'll write it all down, and then I walk those sheets over to the shredder and let them go, because there's dozens of ways to release energy. Some is just stuff that you do through body work, but this journaling really helps to just let it out, just let it go. And I understand your feeling, because you've got this idea, well, I've got to be kind of somewhat appropriate in my journaling, because if I save these journals and somebody gets into them, and this better look pretty good, and I don't want to offend anybody, and what if they know I'm thinking that, and blah blah blah.
That's right. Yeah.
And so you just turn it around and find another way.
So do you shred everything that you write, or just every now and again?
Just the 5-year-old stuff.
Just the 5-year-old.
Okay. If I'm having a 5-year-old meltdown.
Yeah.
I hope I'm not the only one in the world that does this, but anyway.
No.
If I'm having a 5-year-old meltdown, and I'm really carrying that energy with me, and I don't want it, so I have to find a way to just get some motion around it, get it moving, and then I can look at it and say, oh man, that's pretty low down the pole there. for,
So you actually feel some relief. So after you do it, then you read it over,
yeah, read it over, look at it,
feel it.
yeah, because I think when you read it over and then you
Hmm.
see what the quality of that reaction is, and then you can see where that it has come from a very, because we were talking last week about triggers. It may be something that just triggered you in such a profound way that you can't get out of your 5-year-old reaction to it.
Yeah.
So that's another thing for journaling.
Okay. Well, I will definitely keep that in mind. I do have a shredder.
Well, as long as you got a paper shredder, and or
Yep.
if you live anywhere where you can light a little fire in your backyard, just let it go up in flames, which is another
Swallow it, chew it, eat it.
Yeah, that's right. So there was an interesting quote here from a Chinese gentleman who had spent quite a bit of time in a Chinese prison. Since I don't know much about his story, but he said this: writing eases my suffering. Writing is my way of reaffirming my own existence.
Mm.
And I'll have to say that resonates with me as well, because sometimes life just gets a little bit away on you, and it might be a work situation, it might be a family situation, it could be some relationship situation, and you're just feeling kind of I don't know what the right word is, kind of invisible, that you haven't been able to either express yourself or or have a conversation with someone or some folks or whatever, and you're carrying these feelings around. You just sort of feel like you're disappearing with them somehow.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then writing it down and seeing the internal and the dialogues and the monologues mostly that you're having with yourself, it brings your sense of not just awareness, but of existence back into view. Like, oh, wow, these are real feelings, and they have really impacted me, and this is my life, and now I have to acknowledge that there's something kind of serious going on here.
Yeah.
And that can all be done, in a process of just bringing out some of the ways in which you got to feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
I have a little bit of an understanding of that. How much do you journal every day?
It's funny. Sometimes I go through kind of spurts, and I will journal every day. Like I wrote just the other night, and I looked to see when my last entry was, and it was actually about a month ago. I don't usually go that long. But I find that, especially in this time of not having much to do, I find that I don't have a lot to write about, and it's pretty boring stuff. Well, the sun shone today, and I made a new recipe, or after a while it gets pretty boring, and so I just take a break so that when I go back to it, I have I've got something to write about,
rather than writing that damn sun again.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yes. So, well, I mean, I think I wouldn't say I write every day. I write in the gratitude journal every day, but I don't write in my kind of regular journal every day. I'll sometimes just make notes just to kind of verify that something that had happened or something that I reacted to or whatever, and maybe a little note about that. But we also discovered a little bit on how to have some fun with journaling, did we not?
Yes, but before we do that, can I just mention one thing? I just want to also bring up dream journals. I think dream journals are really helpful, and I've been keeping a dream journal for a long, long time, and it is so much fun to go back and read some dreams, and I think it really helps you try to figure out what you're thinking, what your subconscious is thinking. So I'm a really big proponent of dream journaling.
Yeah, good point. That's because when you get a good dream and you can catch a little bit of a corner of it to give some life to it, and write about it, it's sometimes very encouraging in some ways and enlightening in other ways, because we always look at what what outside of ourselves would have caused that dream, but we're dreaming. So,
Right.
so you have to, own that too, because
Yeah.
so-and-so did this and then I dreamt that. Well, yes. So it's that same process of really looking inward, like you're saying, and seeing what was that about.
Yeah. So
And
interesting.
yes.
Okay. So what were you getting at there?
Well, I was just gonna make a comment about how we started having some fun with journaling.
Right.
And we discovered
The vault?
what we
What's
discovered.
that?
What did we discover?
The vault?
Well, we'll talk about the vault in a minute or two, but I just wanted to also talk about the creativity part of it, where we just
Oh, the stickers. The stickers. Yeah.
and how that brings a whole new element of creativity to a journal.
It really does. And yeah, I've got a whole box for my collection is just, I'm telling you, it's a thing to behold.
Yes, it is. Because it's sort of it's kind of an image that you don't have to try and draw, with some color, with some there's usually a sense of kind of a feeling to it.
Yeah.
How colorful is it? Is it birds? Is it butterflies? Is it eyeballs? Is it flowers?
Yeah.
Is it clouds? We have everything under the sky.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah. Even yesterday when I was, I even had St. Patrick's Day stickers.
Yeah, so you can write about an event, like a holiday or an event, and have some imagery about it.
Yeah, it's great.
Use it as an inspiration to write. And we also discovered the Recess stationery shop in Inglewood.
Mm-hmm.
And the beautiful writing paper and the beautiful pens and pencils and colored pencils and all sorts of things to make that experience even fuller, and also to have some fun with it.
Yes. Yeah. The stickers really do bring another level to it.
Yes. And even though our kids make fun of us sometimes,
they really do. I know mine do too. But when you go through it, I know I was taking a course a couple of years ago, and we had to journal things throughout the day, and I used the stickers for that. And so when we were reading them out, taking turns and reading them out, the other people they'd kind of glance over and said, oh, what you got over there. They'd everybody come around and they'd look at the stickers, and they thought it was so creative. And this one girl said, do you mind if I steal that idea from you? I'm going to start using stickers, because it really is it really does help the creativity, doesn't it?
Well, I think yes, because it's another dimension.
Yeah.
And that sometimes just looking at something like a beautiful butterfly, or a lovely sort of, because we love our llamas.
I was just thinking of the llamas.
And things that are bright and colorful, it has an impact, because we know that that there is a whole kind of movement around color therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And the impact that has on kind of moods and vision and all that sort of thing. And so it adds into all of those things, which I think is really lovely.
Well, yes, and I think because of scrapbooking, there is a sticker for everything nowadays. Like you can find a sticker to express anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've been often perusing Michael's, the craft shop, the craft store.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of really beautiful things there. And so there's tons of places you can go and get these things if you're interested. And it does add a huge dimension to the journaling.
And it's not that expensive.
No,
really.
It's one of the, it's one of the easiest and we can spend a lot of money on stickers, but having said that, it's one of the easiest things to do without any overhead expenses, other than the stickers that you buy.
Well, we found a dollar store that has a real good collection. Yeah, not all dollar stores do, but some of them have great stickers, and they're really good price.
Yep. So I think we're also going to talk about the vault.
Okay.
And this idea came about one day when we were talking about repetitive stories and how you know, there's certain stories we tell over and over.
Mhm.
You know, not consciously so much as just we tell them over and over. And it's you know, usually from something, you know, in our childhood or in our early adulthood, or it's some, you know, it was something that some offense we had taken, or a very difficult relationship, or you know, something that was long gone but still lingering in the, you know, in the memory banks and this sort of thing. And we were in a shop one day looking at boxes really to hold our stickers, because we had so many and they were all over the place and we were trying to figure out. And I found this box, and I was at the same time sort of thinking about this idea that we had been discussing about these stories. And I thought, you know, there must be a way to end the storytelling somehow. We, of course, we know, in agreement with ourselves, but that we identify some of these old stories that we tell over and over again, and that we find a way to kind of put them to rest, because they're really not useful. I think they're stories that are told to give us a certain feeling about something, or to try and correct an old wrong, or to get some, you know, get some support from people that we were wronged, and how nasty that was, and poor us, and blah blah blah. And that there are some stories that we tell much more often than others. So I was thinking about this box and these stories, and I thought, wow, what a good idea it would be to call it the vault, and to fill it with paper and pencil or pen and a few envelopes, and to pick a story to put in the vault that you won't tell anymore. So you take
Yeah.
that paper and you write that whole story out in as much detail as you possibly can, with every injustice that you suffered, with every, you know, time it came up again, with who was wrong and who was right, and everything that is a part of that story. Put it in the envelope and make the agreement with yourself to not tell the story again.
Mhm. Mhm.
Put it in the vault, close the lid, and have that as your ritual for that particular story. And it's a cool thing.
Now, I think you wrote on, or we wrote on the outside kind of a little kind of a title of what the story was, didn't we?
The on each envelope was kind of a very brief description of what the story was.
Yeah. And the envelope is sealed.
And the envelope is sealed. Now, I think for some stories, and especially when it's related to what you were talking about previously, it might be a good idea to, if you're really concerned about anybody discovering this vault, because it's only cardboard. It doesn't. It's not safe from entry for sure. And to hang on to that story for a while in the envelope, and feel the time that it's ready to shred it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you do have to have an agreement with yourself that you want this story to end.
Yeah.
Storytelling to end. So that was one other thing that, I mean, that's another writing exercise. It's a little bit like journaling, but it's like a kind of a cleansing too, of taking some, you know, some repetitive storytelling and just putting it to rest.
Yeah. Well, I think you know, from, you know, watching TV and stuff like that, you see where a lot of therapists will recommend, you know, especially if someone has passed away in your life and you feel like you still haven't resolved a certain something with that person, then you can write it down and burn it afterwards, you know, and it's that kind of a release as well. So there's lots of little things that you can that you can do with the journaling. Like you said, there's the gratitude, there's the vault, there's the burning, there's the shredding, there's the, you
Just,
know.
just the daily exercise and the fun of it too. I mean, I think it's important to incorporate that piece that's enjoyable.
Yes.
It's not tormenting you all the time, and just you know, have some fun with it. And
Yeah.
I love that piece of it, because I'm kind of a student of the Course in Miracles, and I'll write a lesson, daily lesson down for the, you know, for that day, and then I'll do a whole journaling page about it to just kind of look at. It's sort of like, you know, it's like kind of rolling around in it and looking at all the different aspects of what could that mean, and what does that mean for my life, and, you know, this sort of thing. And so there's a lot of things you can do. Just play with it and have some fun.
Yeah, your journaling books are just beautiful. Like they're very impressive. They're
Oh,
they're very creative, and I just think they're wonderful.
well,
They're
thank you.
beautiful, really.
Well, they're fun for me, and I had no idea that I had that piece in me where I could do that kind of creative writing and journaling until I just started playing with colors and and shapes and rulers and flowers and, you know, all sorts of stickers and such, and how that expression is kind of unexpected in a way.
Yeah, a surprise.
Yeah, and who doesn't like a nice surprise?
Yeah, pleasant surprise.
So I
Yeah.
think we're both on board that we think journaling is a pretty good idea, hey?
Yep. Yeah. I would
Yeah.
give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, get thumbs up, and get your, you know, pay attention to what you like. You know, if you like nice paper, make sure you've got nice paper. If you're
Yeah.
kind of a pen, you know, person like we are,
Yeah. Yeah.
get nice pens, things that you enjoy writing with. If you like color, just get a box of colored pencils,
Yeah.
and start with a box of colored pencils, and, you know, a couple of sheets of stickers, and see where it goes.
Yeah. I know. When I was in the hospital, you brought me so many things to play around with. You brought me pencil crayons. You brought me felt markers, pencil case. You brought a book. This is pre-sticker era. So
Yeah.
you brought me a book of how to draw just basic things. And so I remember while I was in the hospital, because I didn't have stickers, and stickers hadn't been in our, you know, in our life yet. So I would draw a couple of little things, and they, you know, they turned out really well. And so that was before the stickers.
Yeah, that was fun too, because you really are, you see, you have some artistic talent too. So, you know, when you were doing your little figures and stuff, and giving them a life of their own, because that's how you know, you're basically creating your own comic book or something like that.
Yeah.
And telling a story, though,
Yeah.
everything like that is creative, tells a story that we can look at and say, you know, that's my story.
Hmm.
And this is what's happening to me right now, and this is how I'm processing it, and this is how I'm kind of dealing with the things that aren't so great and the things that are great. And, you know, it's a really a nice journey.
It is.
All right, well, I think that's pretty good,
Hmm.
and I would just encourage people to give it a try. If you're not
Yeah.
if you're not already journaling, and you know, lots of people are and enjoying it.
Yeah, I think a lot of I agree. I think a lot of people do journal, and but for people that don't or aren't, I would agree with that, to give it a try
Yeah,
and see how helpful it is,
awesome.
if it is.
Yes. Okay. Well, listen, I enjoyed that. That was fun. And I'll see you next time.
Okay, thank you, Pat.
And thank you, Barb, and bye bye.
Okay, goodbye.